Hey everybody, today on Boardgame Musings, I talk a little bit about John Company, but mostly about the myth of the heavy board gamer.
Here's what I do. Here's what I find me. Here's what they find me. Here's successful.
Hey everyone, this is me, the Undead Viking. As I said, today we're going to be talking just a little tiny bit about this. If you're looking for a review of John Company, go ahead and just turn this video off immediately because I'm not going to be going into diving into this. It is on Kickstarter right now, so yes, you can go ahead and accuse me of grabbing some views or what have you. Maybe, I don't know. But if you are watching this and you want to hear my thoughts on heavy board games, please continue watching. And if you haven't already subscribed to my channel or whatever, hey, if you could go ahead and do that or hit the like button. Hey, what's up, Ivan? See you later. Then you can watch the other stuff that I do, including the weekly podcast of the Alaboom. But anyway, so I'm going to talk just really briefly about John Company. Back when conventions happened, remember that? I remember I was approached by a group of people that are my friends, and they said, "Hey, we've got this cool new game. It's really dense. It's really nobody's played it. Somebody's read the rules already." Thank you, Ivan. We've read the rules, and we want to give it a shot. We've heard that it's good with 4 players. Do you want to play? And I was like, well, I'm at a convention, and conventions for me are usually when I try to play bigger, heavier games. That's just you have more time. You don't have the threat of the outside world really coming in and adjusting your schedule. Plus, it's like one of those things where if it's after dinner, you've got until early morning where you're able to play these games. So I said, sure, and we sat down and we played this, and it was tough. It was difficult, and these are all people that I consider to be really big gamer people. And I don't mean to make that sound like I'm poo-pooing casual gamers in any way, shape, or form. I'm trying to say that these are people that I've played bigger, heavier, denser games with them before, and it took us about an hour to really start to understand or to grok the levers and the buttons we were pushing and how things were interacting with each other. There's a great deal of player interactivity in this game, and so each person was trying to figure out how they were going to try to win and trying to figure out how they were the deals and the bargaining that they were doing. How those, whether or not we were actually making good deals for ourselves and things like that. Ultimately, when we played it, it was a several hour situation. We got to the end, and if you held a gun to my head and said, did I enjoy that first play, I would say I had, as I call it, the quiet sense of self-satisfaction that I had played a game like this to its entirety. And I think I placed last, if I remember correctly. But we were all kind of just impressed with the design. We were impressed with just the fact that somebody had taken on such a task to create such a game as John Company. And ultimately, we enjoyed ourselves. For that purpose. Now, I mean, it wasn't the best game I played that entire convention. I don't even remember what the best game I played that entire convention. Probably one of the numerous times of playing Time's Up in the lobby, as far as fun goes. But there we go. I got it. And so when I got home, I found a place where I could order a copy. I went ahead and ordered a copy, and I have since played this one other time. Now, admittedly, with the pandemic and COVID and everything like that, I really haven't had to have people over to my house. I haven't been to conventions, so I haven't played it again. But the other time I played it, it was mostly because there's in my area, there's one other really big heavy gamer there's a few, but there was one heavy gamer that heard about it and wanted to come over and play, and so the two of us sat down one Saturday afternoon prior to the pandemic and digested the game. And ultimately, my opinion of it is it's still good. I am going to go ahead and back the Kickstarter that's rolling right now, because of the idea that I want it to go along with my PAX Premier Second Edition. Just, you know, I'm not much of a completionist when it comes to board games right now. I'm kind of trying to get rid of my collection, as I've said in many occasions on my podcast, the Alaboom on Wednesdays, and in these videos as well. But there are a few things where I'm just kind of like, yeah, I want to make sure I have that. Just, you know, even if it's going to get maybe one play a year, I want to just have it in my collection. It's just kind of like it's a prestige thing. Now, the myth of the heavy gamer. Scott Alden, name drop. Scott, the guy who runs BGGCon, he used to be a big heavy gamer as well, and he and I have had a lot of discussions about this, and we talk about the myth of the heavy gamer. There's this idea that like heavy games are intrinsically better in some way, and that isn't everybody. I mean, there's lots of times when people are like, hey, do you want to play this? And there's a certain weight or difficulty of a game that they'll reach to, and that is kind of like a hard stop at that point, right? I mean, I'm willing to play most anything. I mean, there's some 18xx games that I won't play just because of the sheer length of them. Also, the fact that, like, I know that if I play certain 18xx games with certain people, they're just going to wipe the floor with me, and I don't really enjoy that. You know, I don't want to spend 5 hours knowing that I'm going to lose during the last 4 hours of it. I don't find that enjoyable. But a lot of times what people will equate those things as is that, do I want to spend 3 or 4 hours playing this one? And I would like to think that there are games that are dense and difficult that aren't necessarily like a 3-hour affair. But it just seems that, like, because of it, I think that the time that the game takes to play is a end result of a more complex design. Mostly because maybe the action of placing the pawn in a certain spot and activating the lever that moves this and turns that resource into that, and then is then exchanged for some other process that you down the road is by itself very simple to process on the game board. But the issue there is that the decision to make that placing of the pawn to start that chain is a difficult one. It's one that takes a lot of processing. It takes a lot of thought and care before you actually go ahead and do that option. So if anybody knows of like a super like heavy game that lasts an hour, I know they're out there. By all means, put those in the suggestions, or maybe some of like the heavier games you enjoy. But now, that being said, the myth of the heavy gamer is the idea that, like, we love the idea of us playing a heavier game. Maybe it's like a rite of passage. Maybe it's oh yeah, I totally know how to play that game. I've played it. There is some, like, again, that sense of pride in the fact that you are playing those bigger, heavier options. Also, is it one of those things where maybe, as I said before, the quiet sense of self-satisfaction of knowing that you are in that rarefied air of people that are enjoying these designs? Because obviously there's a market for them. Right? I mean, they may not have the largest print runs ever. They may only have a print run of 500 or 1,000 or 1,500 copies. But there's enough people out there that are willing to purchase those games and play them. As a matter of fact, I would venture to say that there are a couple of companies like Splotter or Spielworks that almost like seemingly specialize in these heavier games. I would even say to a certain extent that What's Your Game? Like, you know, Madeira is like one of the heavier games that I really enjoy. I end up playing Madeira once or twice a year usually, and I know that sounds weird. I mean, when you say that, it's like, oh yeah, we play that game once or twice a year. I know people that play like Advanced Civilization, which is a big heavier game. Like, it's a convention event, right? Something that they get excited about. But I'm kind of burying the lead here a little bit. The idea that, like, you play a heavier game once or twice a year, and that's something to have some bit of fanfare about, is that yes, I mean, like, because of the fact that you have to actually get a certain number of people that are actually interested in playing the game, and then a certain number of people that are available to play the game, and a certain number of people that are interested, available, and can find a scheduling time that works. Which is why conventions, as I said, works really well for those. Now, I want to tell you a couple of quick stories about different heavier games. So, like, one of my, what was it, last year or 2 years ago? I can't remember when this came out, but this is a heavier game that a friend of mine, full disclosure, Raymond, that he designed. This is a fantastic game. As far as the City of Big Shoulders, and it is on, like, as far as heavy games go, it's on the easier spectrum of it, right? It actively and if you wanted to dip your toes into the heavier game world, I would suggest looking at this. I would suggest getting a feel for this one and seeing if it's something that you enjoy. One of my all-time favorites, and in my top, well, anywhere, I mean, it never falls out of my top 3 games of all time. I mean, this has been my number 1 game for many years. It's been the late great Chad Jensen, one of the greatest game designers ever, designed Dominant Species, and gone far, far too soon. It makes me very sad that Chad is no longer with us. But Dominant Species, when I remember I read a few things about this. This was like one of the first games that I heard about that was, oh, hey, this is this heavier game coming out. And I had really enjoyed Chad's designs prior to Dominant Species coming out. And I'd really been interested in this one because of the whole process of, like, the idea of which species on the planet was going to come out on top. And I remember getting this game and getting it to a table, and I remember thinking that this game was very dense, again, very dense, and very, I'm not difficult, but I mean, as far as like the processing of the turns in your head, very, very prone to AP. If you're prone to AP, this is going to trigger that. I've had videos about AP before. I don't care about AP. It doesn't bother me. Analysis paralysis, if you will. Take your time, make the best move you possibly can get. I get it. I'm busy worrying about mine as well. But one of the things that made Dominant Species easier to attack as a heavy gamer was the marvelous rulebook that this game. This is probably, I would say, there's other rulebooks that are great, but there's been no better rulebook for a heavy, dense game like this ever. And this is fantastic. If you like area control and direct player interaction, I would suggest Dominant Species all day long. I do have Dominant Species Marine. I haven't been able to get people over the house to play it yet. As soon as I play that is a video I am going to do a review of. And I know a few of you are waiting for a Dune Imperium review, and I'm working on it. It's coming. But here's another thing about the myth of the heavy gamer thing. So I'm gonna do another name drop here. I had always wanted to play. I mentioned splatter games. I had always wanted to play, and I played several splatter games. Zimbabwe, of something I enjoy. Obviously, I've played. Well, I shouldn't say obviously, but I played Indonesia. I played Roads and Boats. These are all convention games that I've been at, and I'd always wanted to play Antiquity. And I was lucky enough. I'm lucky enough to consider Scott Nicholson a friend, and we played a 2-player game of Antiquity, and we had a lot of fun. And immediately after it, I went out and got a copy, and I had a copy of the big giant boxed one, right? And then I was super excited about this, and then somebody at some point offered me a good trade for it, or wanted to buy it from me, and I sold it. And somebody locally in town, and I got rid of it. And then when they came up with the smaller 3rd edition box, I picked up a copy of it. Now you will notice the shrink is still on this, and I've owned this for, I'm guessing, 4 years. I have not had the interest in playing this, nor have I had the group to play this. And every time I think about, I should play Antiquity, I think to myself, who's going to teach it? because I don't remember the rules. I don't want to spend an hour, with the rule book in my nose trying to figure out how to play the game. I'm not interested in doing that at all. And so this one will probably end up just sitting, on my shelf. I'm proud to own it because of its amazingness, but I don't ever see myself playing it. I have a friend named Cullen that lives near me who really enjoys the heavier games as well. And last time he was at my house before the pandemic again, we played Trismegisterius, which was a really good heavy game. I think I don't know. No, I think I sold that one. But I mean, another good heavy game, the one that I enjoy. But and then another example of games that oh well, I really want to play that. I heard it's amazing. Is my Pax Porfiriana. You'll notice it still has when I bought it at a convention, it still has the price tag on it. You'll notice it still has the shrink wrap. I have heard nothing but amazing things about this game, but I don't want to. These PAX games are some of the most incredibly. It's like the rule book is I dare you to play this game. That's the way I describe those, and it takes a certain mind to wrap your head around those. And I am glad we're in this golden era of people doing how to play videos, which I don't watch many of them. I have watched a few in my time, and so I do appreciate when people are willing to teach a game, and so that but ultimately you can't go back to a video and look at that and say to yourself, oh well, it's how does this rule work? Okay, go to I think it's timestamp 16 and 31 seconds. They described it. No, you can't really do that. So you ultimately you're digging through those rule books, and it has been my experience that the PAX games, like I said, it is definitely we dare you to learn how to play this game. And so, I mean, I will undoubtedly end up trading this or selling this before it ever gets played. Unless somebody comes to my house, knows how to play it, and is willing to sit down. And the thing about these games is that almost all of them, and not just Sierra Madre games, I'm not trying to pick on Sierra Madre in any way, but it seems to me when you have a game that's really has a ton of rules, has a ton of different rule 14.1.2 kind of things going on, and also has and it consists of 275 cards. Eventually there's just cards that maybe there's always a living rule set, so the game you're playing may not even be the active rule set for it, and you'll find that in lots of heavier war games and things like that, the rules will change and be adapted over time. Cards will be altered. They must have gone through the ages is one of my all-time favorite games. I haven't played it ever since Nations came out. I to scratch my civilization itch, I usually end up playing Nations, which is obviously in my opinion kind of a dumbed down version of Through the Ages, but I still own Through the Ages and I really enjoy that game. But Through the Ages, it didn't matter what printing it was, there was always a typo. There was always cards that were misprinted, or things that and this should have strength of 3 and not this, and you had to go back in with a Sharpie and fix your cards to make them be right. And that was always interesting to me, is that these heavier games that you that you love to play and we want to get to our table, in so many cases they just don't have the right, they have incorrect rule sets, or rule sets that need refining, or scenarios or ways to play the game that aren't fully play tested. Now, and again, there's a big difference between trying to play test Dominant Species enough times to get it perfect as a designer, in comparison to say a game like Splendor or Quacks or something like that. And this is not saying either of those games are less than or greater. I'm just saying that the challenge of creating a difficult, more complex, heavier game is obviously greater. It's obviously it's more. There's a greater difficulty to create that and make that something that people are going to want to play. So the whole point of this video was ultimately is that this is where I sum up, if you will. There are a lot of people that are super excited about this John Company Kickstarter going on, and I applaud them for being excited about this John Company Kickstarter. And like I said, the 2 times that I played this game, I've enjoyed it a great deal. And I myself am backing the game because I want the new version. And maybe they've streamlined it a little bit. I don't know exactly, but I will get it and I will play it ultimately. But the ultimately is that I think there are a great number of people that love the idea of playing a heavier game. They love the idea of playing something that requires a bit of investment in your mental power and your time, and that investment may or may not actually happen. And I'm not here to tell you shouldn't spend your money on the game. By all means, get the game, and if it sits on your shelf for 5 years until somebody offers to trade you games that you actually want for it or something like that, more power to you, and go for it. But and that's fine. Sometimes people buy things just to have them and not so much to use them. It's the case with tons of things, whether it's books or records or what have you. But it is my opinion that the true heavy gamers out there are few and far between. And even though I tend to play heavier games, I don't consider myself a heavier gamer. I just don't. I'm of the mindset that why would I play one game for 4 hours when I could play 4 games in that same 4 hours? And have the different flavors, if you will, and that does not mean that heavy gamers are wrong in any way, or that lighter gamers are more right, or vice versa. What it means is that I think we love the idea of wanting to play these types of games. We love the idea of playing them, but for the vast majority of us, they just don't fit. Whether it is the difficulty, the time, the investment, as I said, it's just the case. But I would love to hear your thoughts on that. If you got anything out of my ramblings here, do you consider yourself a heavy gamer? What's the heaviest game you ever played? Would you rather play 4 games of Love Letter, or something along those lines? Well, I suppose not Love Letter, but let's just say, would you rather have an evening of playing games like Love Letter and Splendor and Time's Up, or would you rather sit down and play Dominant Species with your friends for 2-3 hours? Let me know. And like I said, if you haven't subscribed or anything, please do so. I'd love to hear that. If you're backing John Company, I would strongly suggest you back it. I mean, the game is a tribute to a fabulous design, and I think you can get PAX Premier in that same Kickstarter, if I remember correctly. And this game's absolutely amazing. So go check out that Kickstarter. I'll put the link in there. Why not? And then see if you can get your own copy. But until next time, thank you very much for taking the time to watch this video. I am the Undead Viking, Lance Meister, and you are you, and I'll talk to you soon.